12 obvious signs. There's an evil person next to you. Wisdom for living. Stoicism. Beware the person who masks their evil under a cloak of virtue. Epictetus. Have you ever sensed a darkness in someone close to you? Something unsettling that you just can't put your finger on? In today's special video on Stoic in Your Life, we're diving deep into a crucial topic. 12 obvious signs. There's an evil person next to you. Evil isn't always as obvious as we think. As Epictetus warned, beware the person who masks their evil under a cloak of virtue. And this couldn't be more relevant today. But here's the good news. By the end of this video, you'll be equipped to spot these hidden traits and protect yourself from those who don't have your best interests at heart. Not only will we uncover these signs, but I'll also share practical Stoic wisdom on how to handle each of these types effectively. And make sure you stick around until the end because I'll reveal the most surprising and often overlooked sign of all, one that could change how you see the people around you forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest content. Now, let's get into it. Number 1. Pleasure in others' pain. The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Yet in a world filled with diverse personalities, how do we identify those who secretly derive pleasure from our pain? In today's discussion, we're diving deep into the subtle yet powerful signs that someone might not have your best interests at heart. Whether it's a colleague, friend, or even a family member, recognizing these traits early can protect you from their toxic influence. The first sign we need to be vigilant about is a disturbing one: taking pleasure in others' pain. This trait is more common than we might want to believe. A person who finds joy in another's suffering often disguises this dark delight under a veil of humor or so-called harmless fun. They may laugh at others' misfortunes or make cruel jokes, deriving a twisted satisfaction from seeing others struggle. This behavior is a red flag that you should never ignore. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once observed, "He who does not prevent a crime when he can, encourages it." This wisdom is crucial when dealing with those who find pleasure in the pain of others. If you notice someone frequently reveling in the miseries of others, it may be time to reevaluate their role in your life. Remember, those who genuinely care about you will feel your pain, not relish in it. Now let's move to the second sign: a lack of empathy. Empathy is the cornerstone of human connection, a trait that allows us to understand and share the feelings of others. But an evil person lacks this essential human quality. They are often indifferent to others' suffering and fail to respond appropriately to emotional situations. Instead of offering comfort, they might respond with coldness or even dismiss your feelings altogether. This lack of empathy is a significant indicator of a malevolent nature. As Aristotle famously noted, to perceive is to suffer. If someone close to you shows an inability to suffer alongside you, to truly understand your emotions, they may be more harmful than helpful in your journey through life. The third sign that you might be dealing with an evil person is manipulation. Manipulators are masterful at using others to achieve their own ends. They twist words, exploit emotions, and create confusion to gain control. They often play the victim or hero to draw sympathy or admiration, subtly steering you toward actions that benefit them at your expense. A Stoic perspective teaches us to see things as they are, not as they appear to be. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." To safeguard yourself against manipulation, always question the motives behind others' actions and words. Are they seeking a genuine connection, or are they merely pulling strings to serve their own agenda? Another key indicator of a malevolent character is a constant need for control. Such individuals thrive on having power over others, often dictating how things should be done, or imposing their will upon others without regard for their feelings or autonomy. Control is their way of feeling secure, but it comes at the cost of others' freedom. This behavior is the opposite of what Stoicism teaches. The Stoic belief in self-control and inner strength stands in stark contrast to those who exert power over others. As Epictetus wisely stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Recognize when someone's need to control is eroding your own sense of freedom and well-being, and take steps to distance yourself. Let's also discuss the tendency to lie or deceive. Deception is a tool that evil people use to keep others in the dark about their true intentions. They may lie about small things or twist the truth to create a narrative that suits them. The more they lie, the more they create a web of deceit that traps those around them. In contrast, Stoicism teaches us to value honesty and integrity above all else. Lying is not only saying what isn't true, noted the philosopher Lucius Annaeus Seneca. It is also, in effect, saying more than is true, and in the case of the emotions, feeling more than one feels. When you find yourself entangled in someone else's lies, it's time to step back and reevaluate the relationship. A related sign is a lack of remorse or guilt. An evil person doesn't feel bad about their harmful actions or the pain they cause. They rarely, if ever, apologize, and when they do, it's often insincere or self-serving. This absence of remorse is a significant sign that you're dealing with someone with a toxic mindset. Remember, genuine remorse comes from understanding the impact of one's actions and having a desire to make amends. A Stoic approach encourages us to seek out those who exhibit this understanding and to guard ourselves against those who do not. Another sign is hypocrisy. When someone consistently fails to practice what they preach, they might demand honesty but lie themselves or expect generosity while being selfish. Such double standards can leave you feeling confused and disoriented. As a defense mechanism, they deflect their flaws onto others to mask their inadequacies. Remember the words of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say." Observing someone's actions rather than just listening to their words can reveal their true nature. Another red flag is relentless criticism or belittling. An evil person often undermines others to feel superior. Their criticism is rarely constructive. Instead, it is intended to hurt, control, or diminish the self-worth of those around them. This is another tactic to establish dominance and manipulate their target. The Stoic way encourages us to maintain our composure and not be swayed by harmful words. If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, writes Marcus Aurelius, but your own judgment of them, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. The final sign we will cover today is a pattern of being two-faced. An evil person might appear friendly and charming in one setting while showing a different, more sinister side when they think no one is watching. This behavior stems from an inconsistency in character and a lack of true moral grounding. As Seneca warned, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." This dual nature can make it difficult to know who you are truly dealing with, so always be cautious with those who show different faces in different situations. Recognizing these signs early can save you a lot of pain and trouble. The wisdom of Stoicism provides us with a clear lens to view the world and the people around us, helping us discern those who do not align with our values. As you navigate your life, keep the teachings of Stoic philosophers close to your heart. They serve as a guide to lead a life of virtue and protect yourself from those who seek to harm you. Stay mindful, stay vigilant, and remember, the best way to deal with evil is to stay good yourself. Number 2. The need to control your life. When it comes to identifying a potentially harmful person in your life, one of the most telling signs is their relentless need to control you. This isn't just about making suggestions or offering advice. It's a deeper, more insidious drive to dominate every aspect of your existence, from your choices to your emotions and even your perceptions. This desire to control can manifest in countless ways. Perhaps they always insist on choosing where you go for lunch, or they constantly criticize your decisions, suggesting that they know what's best for you more than you do. It might even be subtle, wrapped in a guise of concern or love, but underneath, lies a desire to bend your will to theirs. You might find yourself always second-guessing your decisions, wondering if they align with this person's expectations. This behavior stems from their insecurity and fear, not strength, as they often claim. A person who needs to control others is often afraid of losing control themselves, of being vulnerable or exposed, so they exert their dominance over others as a way to feel secure. This leads us to a powerful reflection. Are you living your own life, or are you living under the shadow of someone else's expectations? It's a question that every person should ask themselves, especially when they feel their autonomy slipping away. Think about a time in your own life when someone seemed overly interested in every detail of your decisions. How did that make you feel? Did it inspire confidence, or did it make you feel trapped, as if your freedom was slowly being stripped away? In today's world, many people face this challenge in their professional lives. Consider the story of John, a mid-level manager in a bustling corporate office. John had always been competent and confident in his role, but his new boss, Carol, seemed to take an unusual interest in every decision he made. At first, he thought she was just being thorough, but soon it became clear she wasn't interested in collaboration. She wanted control. Every meeting felt like an interrogation. Every report had to be approved multiple times, and every suggestion was dismissed unless it was Carol's idea. John felt his creativity stifled, his autonomy diminished. He began to dread going to work, not because of the job itself, but because of the oppressive atmosphere Carol created. Does this sound familiar? Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation, feeling like you're walking on eggshells around someone who seems to thrive on having the final say? This type of behavior is toxic and can slowly erode your self-esteem and autonomy. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely advised, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." This quote is a powerful reminder that while we cannot always control the actions of others, we can control how we respond to them. If you find yourself constantly accommodating someone else's need to control, it may be time to reassess that relationship. It's crucial to recognize the difference between healthy guidance and destructive control. A true friend, partner, or colleague will want to see you flourish and will respect your independence rather than constantly trying to shape you into what they want you to be. Now you might ask, how do I handle someone who wants to control my life? The first step is awareness. Be aware of the signs, how they react when you make decisions independently, how they respond when you assert your own opinions, and whether they respect your boundaries. You don't have to confront them aggressively, but it's important to stand your ground. Set clear boundaries and communicate them calmly yet firmly. Remember the story of John? He realized that to reclaim his peace of mind and job satisfaction, he needed to set boundaries with Carol. He started by expressing his desire for more autonomy in his role, and made it clear that while he valued her input, he also needed the space to execute his responsibilities without constant oversight. This approach didn't change Carol overnight, but it did help John regain a sense of control over his work life. It's also vital to seek support. Talk to others you trust about your concerns. Often, these controlling individuals prey on isolation, making you feel like you have nowhere else to turn. But what if you can't avoid them entirely? Sometimes you can't simply walk away from a job or a relationship. In these cases, it's about managing your response. Stoicism teaches us to maintain our internal freedom, even in the face of external constraints. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means learning to detach emotionally from their need to control, understanding that their behavior says more about them than it does about you. By maintaining your inner peace and composure, you refuse to give them the power they crave. Instead, you keep that power firmly within yourself. So, what lessons can we draw from this discussion? First, recognize the signs of a controlling person and understand that their need to control is a reflection of their insecurities, not your inadequacies. Second, set clear boundaries and communicate them firmly. This is an essential step in protecting your autonomy. Third, cultivate your internal strength and practice emotional detachment, focusing on maintaining your inner peace regardless of the external pressures you face. Finally, remember that you are the master of your own life. No one should have the power to dictate how you live, what you think, or who you become. Reflect on these lessons and consider, are there areas in your life where you need to reclaim control? Are there relationships that require a recalibration of power dynamics? Keep these questions in mind as you navigate your path, and let the wisdom of Stoicism guide you in preserving your freedom and autonomy. Number 3. Strange feeling when you're around them. Have you ever been around someone who, for no clear reason, makes you feel uneasy or uncomfortable? It's a strange sensation, almost like your intuition is trying to tell you something that your conscious mind hasn't yet recognized. This brings us to the third sign that there might be an evil person nearby, that inexplicable feeling of discomfort or tension when you're in their presence. It's as if your body senses a threat before your mind does. You might feel anxious, restless, or even physically tense when they're around. This isn't just paranoia or imagination at work. It could be your instincts picking up on subtle cues that something about this person isn't right. Sometimes we dismiss these feelings, brushing them off as irrational or unfounded. But here's a thought. What if your gut is actually more perceptive than you think? After all, our instincts have evolved over thousands of years to protect us from harm. So why do we often ignore them when it comes to people? Think about it. Has there ever been someone in your life who made you feel this way? Maybe it was a coworker who always seemed just a little too interested in your failures, or a friend who offered support that felt more like surveillance. When you're around this person, you can't quite put your finger on it, but something feels off. It's not that they've done anything obviously wrong. In fact, they might be outwardly kind or friendly. But underneath, there's a layer of unease, a sense that things are not as they seem. This is your subconscious mind at work, analyzing countless tiny signals. A slight change in tone, a fleeting expression of disdain, or the way their eyes don't quite match their smile. It's important to pay attention to these feelings because they are often your first line of defense against someone with harmful intentions. As the philosopher Seneca wisely noted, the mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. But perhaps your mind is not anxious about the future. It's anxious about the present reality of a person who does not mean well. Now you might wonder, what should you do when you experience this strange feeling around someone? First, take a step back and consider why you might be feeling this way. Is it something they've said or done? Or is it just their general presence that puts you on edge? Reflect on your interactions with them. Have they been overly critical, dismissive, or manipulative in subtle ways? Maybe they've been excessively charming, which might seem positive at first, but could be a tactic to lower your defenses. Sometimes people who mean us harm can be the most charming, as they use their charisma to disarm and manipulate. Think about the famous quote by Maya Angelou: "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Often, we ignore red flags because we want to believe in the goodness of others. But ignoring these signs can lead us down a path of hurt and regret. Consider a story from a modern workplace setting. Imagine Jane, a seasoned professional who always trusted her instincts. One day, her company hired a new team member, Tom, who seemed perfectly pleasant. He smiled a lot, was polite, and always knew the right thing to say. But something about him didn't sit right with Jane. She couldn't explain it, but every time Tom was around, she felt a tightness in her chest, a subtle but persistent sense of dread. At first, she dismissed it as just being wary of new people. However, over time, she noticed that Tom would often ask prying questions about her personal life under the guise of friendly conversation. He seemed to relish in hearing about her struggles more than her successes. Jane couldn't shake the feeling that there was a hidden agenda behind his kindness. Trusting her gut, she decided to maintain a professional distance from Tom, only to later find out that he had been subtly undermining her work to get ahead. Jane's initial feeling of unease was her intuition alerting her to a threat before she could consciously recognize it. How often have you ignored such feelings only to regret it later? It's also essential to consider why someone might provoke such a response. Are they perhaps projecting negative energy or harboring ill intentions that your subconscious is picking up on? Or do they remind you of someone from your past who caused you harm, and you're subconsciously associating those traits with this person? Whatever the reason, it's crucial to trust your feelings. As Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This means that our reactions to people often reveal more about us than we realize. Your discomfort could be an opportunity to learn more about yourself and the boundaries you need to set to protect your peace of mind." So, what practical steps can you take when you feel this way around someone? First, practice mindfulness. Pay attention to your body's reactions. Are you tensing up, clenching your jaw, or feeling your heart rate increase? These are all signs that your body is in a defensive mode, sensing a threat. Next, consider limiting your exposure to this person, especially if your feelings of unease are consistent and unexplainable. It's okay to distance yourself from those who make you feel uncomfortable. You owe it to yourself to protect your mental and emotional well-being. Finally, seek counsel from trusted friends or mentors. Sometimes, discussing your feelings with others can provide clarity and confirm your instincts. Ask yourself, do you often find yourself drained or emotionally exhausted after interacting with this person? This could be another sign that your intuition is trying to tell you something important. It's worth remembering that not everyone who makes us feel uneasy is necessarily evil. Sometimes, it's just a matter of conflicting personalities or miscommunication. But when the feeling persists and is accompanied by other red flags, it's worth taking seriously. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you allow someone with negative energy to remain close, you risk their darkness affecting your own light. Protect your spirit by being discerning about who you allow into your inner circle. You have the power to choose the kind of energy and people you surround yourself with. So, what's the lesson here? Trust your instincts, protect your space, and remember that your well-being is more important than pleasing others. The strange feeling you get when you're around certain people is often a warning sign. Don't ignore it. Your peace of mind is invaluable, and it's worth safeguarding against any threat, no matter how subtle it may seem. So, ask yourself today, who in your life makes you feel at ease, and who leaves you feeling drained or uneasy? The answers might just guide you to a more peaceful, fulfilling life. Number 4, lack of responsibility. Have you ever encountered someone who never seems to take the blame no matter the situation? They have an uncanny ability to deflect, to point fingers, and to dodge accountability like it's a reflex. Now, we're diving deep into one of the clearest signs that there's an evil person next to you: their chronic lack of responsibility. The ancient Stoics believed in personal accountability and integrity, but what happens when someone around you doesn't share these values? Let's explore how to identify this trait and what it might mean for your life. One of the most glaring signs that you might be dealing with an evil person is their persistent lack of responsibility. This isn't just about someone making occasional excuses. It's a pattern of behavior where they refuse to own up to their mistakes or failures. They will never admit they were wrong, even when it's clear to everyone around them. Instead, they deflect blame onto others, twist the narrative to make themselves the victim, or create elaborate stories to avoid facing the consequences of their actions. This behavior is not only frustrating, but also a clear indication of a deeper character flaw. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things." When someone consistently fails to take responsibility, it reveals their skewed judgment and distorted view of themselves and the world around them. Think about it. Have you ever known someone who, no matter what, always has an excuse? It might be a colleague who blames the team whenever a project fails, or a friend who always finds a reason why their poor choices are someone else's fault. Maybe it's a family member who never seems to learn from their mistakes, constantly pointing fingers at others while remaining blind to their own flaws. This lack of responsibility is more than just annoying. It's dangerous because it means that person is incapable of growth or change. They don't see their own faults, and therefore, they make no effort to improve. This not only stunts their personal development but also drags down everyone around them, pulling them into a cycle of blame and negativity. How many times have you found yourself caught in this cycle, trying to reason with someone who refuses to see their part in the problem? Consider the story of a modern workplace. Think of a manager, Mark, who always seems to have a scapegoat. When the sales numbers are down, it's because the team wasn't working hard enough. When a project fails, it's because his subordinates didn't follow his instructions correctly. Never once does he stop to consider that perhaps his leadership style or his decisions might have contributed to the problem. This kind of behavior can be incredibly toxic in a professional environment where accountability and teamwork are crucial. It creates a culture of fear and mistrust, where people are afraid to speak up or take risks because they know the blame will always fall on them, never on the person truly responsible. Think about how much more productive and positive a workplace could be if everyone took ownership of their actions, admitted their mistakes, and worked together to find solutions. Isn't that the kind of environment we all strive for? But this issue extends beyond the workplace. In personal relationships, a lack of responsibility can be even more damaging. Imagine being in a relationship where your partner never admits when they're wrong. Every argument ends with you feeling frustrated and unheard because they simply can't acknowledge their role in the conflict. Over time, this erodes trust and intimacy, leaving you feeling emotionally drained and resentful. You start to walk on eggshells, afraid to bring up any issues because you know they'll just twist things around to make you feel like the bad guy. Does this sound familiar? It's a classic tactic of those who lack a sense of personal accountability. They make you doubt yourself, question your own sanity, and ultimately, undermine your self-confidence. It's a form of emotional manipulation that can leave deep scars if left unchecked. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic philosopher, once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This quote reminds us that we should not get caught up in justifying ourselves to those who refuse to take responsibility. Instead, we should focus on being accountable for our own actions and maintaining our integrity. So, what should you do if you find yourself dealing with someone who constantly shirks responsibility? The first step is recognizing the pattern. Don't get caught in their web of excuses and deflections. Observe how often they shift blame onto others, and ask yourself if this is someone you want to invest your time and energy in. Next, set clear boundaries. Let them know that you expect honesty and accountability, and be prepared to enforce these boundaries if they're crossed. It's not about confronting them aggressively, but rather standing firm in your expectations. If they continue to avoid responsibility, you might need to distance yourself or even cut ties if their behavior becomes too damaging. Remember, you have a responsibility to protect your own well-being too. It's also important to cultivate a mindset of responsibility in yourself. Lead by example. Show others what it means to be accountable, to own your mistakes, and to strive for personal growth. This doesn't mean you should tolerate others' lack of responsibility, but rather that you should embody the values you wish to see in the world. By doing so, you not only strengthen your own character, but also inspire those around you to do the same. And ask yourself, are there areas in your own life where you could take more responsibility? Could you be more accountable in your relationships, at work, or in your personal development? Remember the words of Seneca, "He who is brave is free." Taking responsibility for our actions and choices is a form of bravery. It frees us from the chains of blame and deflection and allows us to live authentically and honestly. Lack of responsibility is not just a minor character flaw, it's a significant red flag that should not be ignored. Whether it's in the workplace, in personal relationships, or within your own self-awareness, recognizing and addressing this behavior is crucial for fostering a healthy and supportive environment. Remember, taking responsibility isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest with yourself and others, admitting when you're wrong, and making a genuine effort to improve. So, look around you. Do you see someone who constantly avoids accountability? Are they holding you back or dragging you down into their cycle of blame? If so, it might be time to reconsider their place in your life. And above all, continue to hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity and responsibility, knowing that by doing so, you not only improve your own life, but also set a powerful example for others to follow. Thank you for joining us in today's video. Before we dive into the next segment, I want to take a moment to sincerely thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you as a part of our Stoic in Your Life community, where we explore the timeless wisdom of Stoicism together. I encourage you to share your story or any personal insights you may have in the comments below. If you're not sure what to say, simply write, "I am a newbie," if you're new to our channel, or "I am Stoic," if you've been with us on this journey for a while. Your engagement not only shows your presence but also inspires us to keep creating meaningful content for you. So, let's continue this journey of growth and understanding together, shall we? Number 5. Habitual lying. Let's talk about something we've all encountered at some point. Someone who just can't seem to tell the truth. Habitual lying is a major red flag, and one of the most obvious signs that there might be an evil person lurking in your life. This isn't just about the occasional fib or white lie that we all might tell to spare someone's feelings or avoid a minor inconvenience. No, this is about someone who lies as if it's second nature to them. Someone who deceives not just occasionally but constantly and deliberately, twisting the truth to serve their own purposes. You see, habitual liars are often driven by a need to manipulate and control their environment. They use lies as tools to create a reality that benefits them, often at the expense of those around them. You might wonder, why do they do it? What satisfaction do they get from weaving webs of deceit? The answer is simple: power. For them, lying becomes a way to gain power over others, to keep them confused, off balance, and questioning their own perceptions. How often have you found yourself second-guessing your memory or your understanding of a situation because of someone's lies? This is precisely the kind of control they seek to have over you. Consider the story of Tom, a man in his late 40s who was friends with a charismatic individual named Steve. Steve was the life of every party, always telling grand stories that captivated everyone's attention. At first, Tom admired Steve's charisma and confidence, but as time went on, he began to notice inconsistencies in Steve's stories. One week, Steve would claim he was a professional athlete in his youth. The next, he'd say he was a successful entrepreneur right out of college. When Tom started asking gentle questions to clarify these conflicting tales, Steve would get defensive, even hostile, accusing Tom of not trusting him or calling him a liar. Tom soon realized that Steve wasn't just embellishing the truth. He was habitually lying, creating a false image of himself to appear more impressive than he was. This made Tom feel uneasy, and he began to question the nature of their friendship. Could he really trust someone who found it so easy to deceive? What kind of person feels the need to fabricate such elaborate lies about their life? Lying is not just a harmless act, it's a sign of deeper issues. People who lie habitually often lack integrity and respect for others. They may believe that they are smarter than everyone else, that they can outwit and manipulate people without consequence. But here's the thing: lying, especially when it becomes a habit, erodes trust, the very foundation of any relationship, whether personal or professional. Once trust is broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This wisdom reminds us that truthfulness is a cornerstone of ethical behavior, and that lies have no place in a life guided by virtue. Think about it. What happens when someone constantly lies to you? It creates a fog of uncertainty. You start to doubt not just their words, but their actions and intentions as well. A habitual liar is a master of creating doubt, using their deception to control the narrative. They make you question your own sanity, your understanding of reality, and even your own experiences. How many times have you caught someone in a lie, only to have them turn it around on you, making you feel like you're the one who's paranoid or overly suspicious? This tactic, known as gaslighting, is a favorite among those who lie habitually. It's a way of making you feel like you're losing your grip on reality, all while they maintain the upper hand. Take another example from a workplace scenario. Imagine Sarah, a dedicated employee who began to notice that her colleague, Lisa, seemed to have a different version of events for every situation. If a project went wrong, Lisa would fabricate a story about how she had warned the team beforehand, but was ignored. If she missed a deadline, she'd lie about personal tragedies or technical difficulties. Sarah began to realize that Lisa's habit of lying was more than just covering up mistakes. It was a way to manipulate others into feeling sorry for her, or to avoid accountability. Over time, Sarah noticed that morale in the office was declining. Trust among colleagues was eroding, all because of one person's habitual dishonesty. This is what habitual lying does. It poisons the environment, whether it's in a friendship, a family, or a workplace. Now, let's address a critical question. How can you protect yourself from someone who habitually lies? The first step is awareness. Recognize the signs. Notice the inconsistencies, the stories that don't quite add up, and the defensive behavior when confronted. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Next, don't engage in their games. Habitual liars thrive on drama and confusion. They want you to be caught in their web of lies. By refusing to play along, by staying calm and factual, you deprive them of the power they seek. Set clear boundaries and hold them accountable. Don't be afraid to call out dishonesty when you see it. This doesn't mean you have to be confrontational or aggressive, but being firm and direct is essential. Lastly, consider whether this person is someone you want in your life. Is it worth the emotional energy and the potential damage to your mental health to maintain a relationship with someone who cannot be truthful? As the philosopher Seneca once said, "He who does not prevent a crime when he can, encourages it." In the same way, tolerating habitual lying can be seen as enabling that behavior. By allowing someone to lie to you without consequence, you're essentially telling them that it's okay. But it's not okay. It's never okay. Remember that you deserve honesty, respect, and integrity from the people in your life. Don't settle for less. At the end of the day, living a life of virtue and truth is far more fulfilling than being entangled in a web of lies. So ask yourself today, are there people in your life who make a habit of lying? How does it affect your relationship with them, and more importantly, how does it affect you? Reflect on these questions, trust your intuition, and take steps to protect your peace of mind. Because in the end, the truth will always find a way to reveal itself, and it's far better to stand in the light of truth than to be lost in the shadows of deceit. Number 6. Resistance to change. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to dig their heels in whenever there's a need for change, no matter how small or necessary? This brings us to the 6th sign that there could be an evil person near you. Resistance to change. This isn't just about someone who prefers stability or routine. It's about a deeper, more troubling trait, an almost pathological fear or refusal to accept any kind of change, even when it's for the better. Think about it. Change is a constant in life. The world around us is always evolving, and we must adapt to keep up, whether it's in our personal lives, relationships, or careers. But some people resist change with every fiber of their being. Why? Often it's because they fear losing control or power, or they simply don't want to let go of a situation where they feel comfortable, even if it's detrimental to themselves or others. This resistance isn't just about stubbornness, it's often a red flag for a deeper, more manipulative personality. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Someone who resists change refuses to react or adapt, instead clinging to the status quo because it serves their selfish interests or gives them a sense of control. Consider the people around you, perhaps at work or in your social circle. Is there someone who always shoots down new ideas or clings to old ways, even when those ways are clearly no longer effective? This could be a sign of a deeper problem. Let's take a modern example. In a workplace where innovation and adaptability are key to success, imagine a team leader who rejects every proposal for a new strategy, clinging instead to outdated methods. At first, you might think this person is just set in their ways or maybe even cautious, but over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Whenever a new idea is brought to the table, they quickly dismiss it, sometimes even undermining those who propose it. They create an atmosphere of fear, making people reluctant to speak up or share their thoughts. You might start to wonder, are they simply resistant to change, or is there something more sinister at play? Could it be that they fear losing their position of power or influence if the team adopts a new approach? This kind of behavior isn't just a nuisance. It's a serious impediment to progress and growth. It stifles creativity, discourages innovation, and can lead to a toxic environment where no one feels safe to express new ideas. Ask yourself, have you ever felt stifled by someone's unwillingness to change? Maybe in your own life there's been a time when a partner or friend seemed to resist every effort to move forward or improve a situation. You try to discuss a problem, suggest a solution, or even just propose a new way of doing things, but every time you're met with resistance or outright refusal. It's as if they'd rather stay in a dysfunctional or uncomfortable situation than face the uncertainty of change. This behavior can be incredibly frustrating and demoralizing, especially when you're genuinely trying to help or improve things. Over time, you might start to feel like you're the problem, that maybe you're asking too much or pushing too hard. But here's the truth. Change is a natural part of life, and those who resist it often do so because they fear losing something, whether it's control, comfort, or their current way of being. Consider the story of Emily, a young professional working at a tech startup. Emily was full of fresh ideas and enthusiasm, always looking for ways to improve the company's products and processes. However, she quickly ran into resistance from her manager, Dave, who had been with the company since its inception. Dave was a classic example of someone resistant to change. He had his way of doing things and wasn't open to new methods or ideas, even when the data clearly showed that change was needed. Emily noticed that every time she proposed something new, Dave would dismiss it outright or find a reason why it wouldn't work. She soon realized that it wasn't just her ideas he was against, it was any idea that wasn't his own. Dave's resistance to change wasn't about caution or wisdom, it was about control and maintaining his status quo. He feared that if new methods were implemented and succeeded, it would diminish his role or highlight his outdated approach. This realization helped Emily understand that sometimes resistance to change is more about personal insecurity and the fear of losing power than it is about the actual merit of the new idea. But what does this mean for you? How do you deal with someone who is resistant to change? The first step is to recognize the signs and understand the underlying motivations. Are they truly concerned about the potential downsides of change, or are they afraid of losing something, be it power, control, or comfort? Once you understand the root cause of their resistance, you can approach the situation more strategically. If their resistance is based on fear or insecurity, consider ways to address those fears directly. Show them how change can be beneficial, not just for you, but for them as well. Engage them in the process, make them feel involved, and show empathy towards their concerns. Sometimes resistance can be softened by showing understanding and offering reassurance. But remember, not all resistance to change is rooted in fear or insecurity. Sometimes it's about power, pure and simple. If someone is using their resistance as a way to maintain control or keep others in line, it may be time to reconsider their role in your life or organization. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic philosopher, wisely noted, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This quote reminds us that obstacles, including resistance to change, are not just barriers, but opportunities to grow and advance. If someone is blocking progress through their stubborn resistance, it's an opportunity for you to find new strategies, to learn how to communicate more effectively, or even to stand your ground when necessary. At the end of the day, it's important to remember that change is inevitable, and those who resist it only end up stagnating. They may think they're preserving their world by resisting change, but in reality, they're just holding back progress and growth. So, take a moment to reflect. Are there people in your life who resist change at every turn? How does their resistance impact you? And what steps can you take to encourage a more open and adaptable mindset? The lesson here is clear. Be aware of those who resist change not out of caution or wisdom, but out of fear, insecurity, or a desire to control. Such resistance is not only a hindrance to progress, but a sign of a deeper, potentially more harmful personality trait. Don't be afraid to challenge this resistance, to ask the tough questions, and to stand up for the positive changes you believe in. Remember, your growth and progress are too important to be stifled by someone else's fear of the unknown. Embrace change, encourage those around you to do the same, and always strive to be the best version of yourself, regardless of who or what stands in your way. Number 7. Exploiting kindness. Have you ever felt like someone was taking advantage of your good nature using your kindness against you? It's an unsettling feeling, isn't it? We're going to explore a subtle yet dangerous sign that there might be an evil person nearby, exploiting kindness. As we delve into this topic, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Let's learn how to protect our goodness from those who would use it for their own gain. Exploiting kindness is a tactic used by those with ill intentions, and it is one of the clearest indicators that there might be an evil person in your midst. This behavior goes beyond simple self-interest. It involves deliberately taking advantage of someone's goodwill, generosity, or compassion to achieve selfish goals. Such people know how to spot a kind-hearted individual and often seek them out, using their kindness as a tool or a weakness to exploit. They know that a good-hearted person will likely go the extra mile to help others, even when it's inconvenient or costly to themselves. This type of exploitation isn't just a mild annoyance, it can be deeply damaging. The more you allow someone to exploit your kindness, the more they will push, taking more and more until there is nothing left to give. Have you ever felt this way? Drained, perhaps even used by someone who always seems to need something from you, but never offers anything in return? Consider the story of Paul, a middle-aged man who always prided himself on being generous and helpful. At work, he was the go-to person for covering shifts, handling extra tasks, or lending a sympathetic ear. His colleagues often praised him for his willingness to help, but over time, Paul began to notice a pattern. Certain co-workers seemed to take advantage of his generosity more than others. One in particular, Lisa, always seemed to need something, whether it was help with a project, a favor on the weekend, or advice on her personal problems. At first, Paul was happy to assist, believing he was doing the right thing. But Lisa's requests became more frequent and more demanding. She rarely reciprocated or showed genuine gratitude. Instead, she treated Paul's kindness as something she was entitled to. Eventually, Paul realized that his good nature was being exploited. He wasn't helping a friend in need. He was being used by someone who saw his kindness as a weakness to exploit. It's crucial to understand that kindness is not a weakness. It is a strength. However, when kindness is exploited, it can feel like a burden, making you question your own values and even your sense of self. The Stoics teach us that we must guard our virtues and not let them be used against us. As Seneca wisely stated, "He who is kind to the cruel is cruel to the kind." This quote reminds us that there is a limit to our kindness, and that we must be discerning about who receives it. When you recognize someone exploiting your kindness, it's not about becoming unkind or harsh. It's about setting boundaries to protect yourself from being drained or manipulated. Ask yourself, Have you set clear boundaries with those who continually ask for your help? Are you comfortable saying no when someone's request is unreasonable? If you find it difficult to assert yourself, you might be falling into the trap of exploitation. Another important aspect to consider is the emotional toll that exploiting kindness can take. When you give and give without receiving anything in return, you start to feel depleted, emotionally exhausted, and even resentful. This emotional drain can affect other areas of your life, including your relationships and your own mental health. You might begin to feel like a doormat, someone who is only there to serve others without ever being valued for who you are. It's a dangerous cycle because the more you give in to these exploitative demands, the more you reinforce the behavior. The person exploiting your kindness learns that they can continue to take advantage without consequence. Think about how much better you would feel if you could reclaim your energy, your time, and your sense of self-worth by setting firm boundaries and recognizing the signs of exploitation. In modern life, this dynamic often plays out in both personal and professional settings. At work, it might be a colleague or boss who constantly asks for favors, knowing you'll never say no. In your personal life, it could be a friend or family member who always seems to be in need, yet never offers support in return. These people often rely on guilt to manipulate you, making you feel as though you are selfish or unkind if you don't comply with their requests. But let's be clear, kindness does not mean self-sacrifice. As Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This wisdom also applies to kindness. We must be mindful of where our energy is going and ensure we are not giving more than we can afford, emotionally, mentally, or physically. Ask yourself a crucial question. Are there people in your life who consistently take advantage of your kindness? How does this make you feel? If the answer is drained, resentful, or used, it may be time to reconsider these relationships. Setting boundaries is not about being unkind. It's about protecting your well-being and ensuring that your kindness is given where it is genuinely appreciated and reciprocated. This is not only fair, but necessary for your emotional health and personal growth. It is important to remember that it is okay to say no. It is okay to put yourself first sometimes. You are not obligated to give endlessly to those who do not value your generosity. While kindness is one of the greatest virtues, it should not be exploited. Recognize the signs of those who would take advantage of your good nature and take steps to protect yourself. The Stoics teach us to be wise in our actions, and this includes being wise about how we share our kindness. Remember, kindness that is exploited is not kindness at all. It becomes a tool of manipulation. Don't let anyone turn your virtue into a vulnerability. Protect your goodness, set boundaries, and remember that your worth is not determined by how much you give to those who only take. As you navigate through life, ask yourself, who truly values my kindness? Who deserves my generosity? Reflect on these questions and let them guide you in building healthier, more balanced relationships. By doing so, you not only protect your own well-being but also uphold the true spirit of kindness, one that is given freely and appreciated genuinely. Number 8. Warnings from loved ones. Have you ever heard a warning from a friend or a loved one about someone you're involved with but dismissed it, thinking they were just overreacting or didn't understand the situation? It's easy to brush off these warnings, especially when we're emotionally invested in someone or something. But today, let's talk about the 8th sign that there could be an evil person next to you. Warnings from loved ones. These warnings are more than just casual remarks or offhand comments. They're often grounded in genuine concern and observation. When someone close to you raises a red flag, it's usually because they've noticed something you might be too close to see. Maybe they've seen behavior patterns that concern them, or heard stories that don't quite add up. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This quote is a reminder to listen carefully to the people who care about us, especially when they express concerns about someone in our lives. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "I wish I had listened to my friend," or, "If only I had paid attention to my mother's advice"? Often, We are too caught up in our own emotions or desires to see things clearly. We want to believe the best in people, especially if we have invested time, energy, or love into a relationship or friendship. However, the people around us, those who truly care for our well-being, often have a different perspective. They are not clouded by the same emotions and can see things more objectively. Let's consider a real-life example. Jessica, a successful professional in her 50s, began dating a charming man named Robert. Her friends and family were immediately wary of Robert. They noticed that he was overly flattering, almost to the point of being insincere, and that he always seemed to have an excuse for why things didn't go as planned. Jessica's best friend, Karen, pulled her aside one day and said, "I don't trust him, Jessica. There's something about him that doesn't sit right with me." At first, Jessica dismissed Karen's concerns, thinking she was just being overly protective. But as time went on, Jessica started to see the signs herself: small lies, manipulative behavior, and a pattern of blaming others for his mistakes. Eventually, she realized that Karen had been right all along. How often do we ignore such warnings, only to later wish we had heeded them? Warnings from loved ones are not just about protecting you from others. They are also about guiding you to see the truth more clearly. When someone who knows you well expresses concern, they are doing so because they want to protect you from harm or help you avoid pain. It's not easy to hear, especially when we are convinced of someone's goodness or charm, but these warnings are often grounded in love and a genuine desire for our happiness. Consider the story of Michael, a man in his early 60s who had recently reconnected with an old high school friend, Jerry. Jerry seemed like a great guy, friendly, outgoing, and always eager to help. But Michael's wife, Susan, was skeptical. She noticed that Jerry often made offhand comments that belittled Michael or subtly undermined him in front of others. Susan warned Michael that Jerry's behavior wasn't as friendly as it seemed, but Michael shrugged it off, thinking she was just being too sensitive. It wasn't until Jerry tried to involve Michael in a shady business deal that Michael saw his true colors. By then, he had already lost time, money, and a bit of trust in himself. What would have happened if Michael had listened to Susan's warning earlier? It's important to ask yourself, why are loved ones issuing these warnings? What have they noticed that you might have missed? It's not about being paranoid or suspicious of everyone, but rather about being open to the observations of those who have your best interests at heart. The Stoics teach us that wisdom comes from self-reflection and listening to others who wish to help us grow and avoid suffering. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic philosopher, advised, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." This means being humble enough to accept that others might see things we do not, and being willing to change our course if it will lead to a better, safer outcome. Now, let's talk about how to handle these warnings. First, take a moment to reflect on the feedback. Don't dismiss it outright. Consider the source. Is this someone who has consistently shown they care for you and your well-being? If so, it's worth taking their concerns seriously. Ask questions, seek clarity, and try to understand why they feel the way they do. It's also valuable to observe the person in question more carefully after hearing these warnings. Are there behaviors you've overlooked? Are there signs that something isn't quite right? Trust but verify. It's about finding a balance between being open-hearted and wise, between giving someone the benefit of the doubt and protecting yourself from potential harm. In today's world, we are often encouraged to follow our hearts, to trust our instincts, and to believe in our own judgments. While these are all important aspects of living a fulfilling life, we must also remember the value of community and the wisdom of those who care for us. Our loved ones see us in ways we often do not see ourselves. They notice when we are happy, when we are stressed, and when we are being led astray. Ignoring their warnings can sometimes lead us into deeper trouble or unnecessary pain. So ask yourself, are there any warnings you've been ignoring? Are there people in your life who might have a clearer view of your situation than you do? Are you open to hearing their concerns, even if they challenge your current beliefs or desires? The lesson here is simple but profound. Listen to the people who love you. They are your first line of defense against those who may not have your best interests at heart. If someone close to you raises a red flag, don't be quick to dismiss it. Instead, use it as an opportunity to pause, reflect, and reassess. Remember, it's not a sign of weakness to consider the advice of others. It's a sign of wisdom and strength. As you go through your life, surround yourself with people who genuinely care for your well-being, and be willing to hear their concerns with an open mind and heart. This could be the very insight that protects you from harm and helps you grow wiser in your choices. Remember, as Seneca said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Those who offer warnings do so because they want to see you thrive, not fall prey to those who may not have your best interests at heart. If you've made it this far, you're truly committed to living a life guided by wisdom. Drop a comment saying, "I choose wisdom," to show you're dedicated to recognizing and overcoming negativity. Stick with us, because the journey to a stronger, more resilient self continues. Number 9. Contempt. Contempt is one of the most toxic and damaging behaviors you can encounter in a person, and it's a clear sign that there might be someone harmful close to you. But what exactly is contempt? It's more than just a fleeting moment of anger or frustration. It's a deep-seated feeling of disdain, a belief that someone else is beneath you, unworthy of respect or even basic human decency. Contempt manifests in various ways: sarcasm, eye-rolling, sneering, mocking comments, or even complete disregard for your feelings and opinions. This behavior goes beyond mere disrespect. It's a calculated attempt to belittle and undermine, to make you feel small and insignificant. You've probably felt it before. That sting when someone dismisses your words or makes you feel like your thoughts don't matter. It's a behavior that, if left unchecked, can destroy relationships, erode self-esteem, and create a toxic environment that stifles growth and happiness. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When faced with contempt, your reaction is crucial, not just for your dignity, but for your mental and emotional well-being. Think about the people in your life right now. Is there someone who often makes you feel this way? Maybe it's a partner who scoffs at your dreams, a boss who rolls their eyes every time you speak up in meetings, or a so-called friend who never misses a chance to make a cutting remark. The truth is, contempt doesn't come out of nowhere. It often stems from a place of insecurity or fear in the person expressing it. They project their own inadequacies onto others, attempting to elevate themselves by tearing down those around them. But why do they do it? And why is it so damaging? Contempt is a form of emotional violence. It's a way of saying, "You are less than me," and it seeks to put you in your place. Over time, this behavior can be incredibly damaging, leading you to doubt your worth and question your value. Have you ever found yourself shrinking back, afraid to voice your thoughts because someone made you feel like they weren't worth hearing? Let's consider a real-life example to bring this into perspective. Think of David, a man in his late 30s who started a new job at a prestigious company. David was eager to prove himself and contribute to the team, but he quickly noticed that his manager, Mark, treated him with contempt. Whenever David made a suggestion in a meeting, Mark would smirk or roll his eyes, often interrupting him with sarcastic comments. The rest of the team noticed this, and soon they started to mimic Mark's behavior, dismissing David's ideas before he even had a chance to fully explain them. David began to feel isolated and demoralized. He started doubting his abilities and questioning his place in the company. Contempt is a cancer that spreads quickly, affecting not just the targeted individual, but the entire environment. It creates a culture of negativity and fear, where creativity and open communication are stifled. How many workplaces, friendships, or families have you seen deteriorate because of one person's contemptuous behavior? And more importantly, How did it make everyone involved feel? It's important to recognize contempt for what it is, a weapon used by those who feel threatened by others' strengths, ideas, or successes. The Stoics remind us to focus on what we can control, our own actions and responses. As Marcus Aurelius put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you encounter someone who treats you with contempt, you have a choice. You can let their behavior define your self-worth, or you can choose to stand firm in your sense of self, refusing to be diminished by their words or actions. This doesn't mean you should tolerate contempt or allow it to continue unchecked. On the contrary, it's important to set boundaries and stand up for yourself. But it also means not letting their behavior destroy your peace of mind or sense of self-worth. Think about it. How often do you let the contemptuous words of others affect your mood or dictate your actions? If you find that this happens often, it might be time to reevaluate those relationships or environments. Are they worth the cost to your mental and emotional health? In many cases, confronting the person directly, with calm and assertiveness, can help. Express how their behavior makes you feel and ask them to stop. However, if the behavior continues or escalates, it may be necessary to remove yourself from the situation entirely. Contempt is corrosive, and if left unchecked, it can destroy not only your self-esteem, but also your outlook on life. It's like rust eating away at metal. It starts small, almost unnoticeable, but over time it weakens the entire structure. In personal relationships, contempt is particularly damaging. Research has shown that contempt is one of the leading predictors of relationship failure. Why? Because it creates a barrier to communication and empathy. When one partner treats the other with contempt, it signals a lack of respect and appreciation, which are fundamental to any healthy relationship. If you're in a relationship where contempt is a regular occurrence, it's vital to address it head-on. Open a dialogue and express how this behavior makes you feel. If the other person is willing to listen and change, there's hope for improvement. However, if they refuse to acknowledge their contempt or continue to belittle you, it might be time to consider whether the relationship is worth continuing. After all, as the philosopher Seneca advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Why stay with someone who only seeks to tear you down? So, what can you do when you face contempt from others? The first step is awareness. Recognize the behavior for what it is and understand that it's more about them than it is about you. Next, set boundaries. Let the person know that their behavior is unacceptable and that you won't tolerate it. Protect your space and your peace of mind. And finally, if necessary, walk away. Surround yourself with people who respect and value you, who lift you up rather than bring you down. The Stoics teach us to cultivate our inner strength and not allow the actions of others to dictate our worth. Remember, you are in control of your own life. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, not contempt. Ask yourself, who in my life makes me feel valued and who makes me feel small? The answers to these questions might just guide you toward healthier, more fulfilling relationships and a life where you are not just surviving but thriving. As you go forward, remember to hold your head high, value your own worth, and never let anyone else's contempt make you doubt yourself. Number 10. Mistreating animals. Mistreating animals is a clear and undeniable sign of a person's darker tendencies, and it's one of the most alarming indicators that someone might have a malicious character. This behavior goes beyond mere neglect. It's a deliberate act of cruelty towards creatures that are defenseless and dependent on human kindness. An individual who mistreats animals, whether through neglect, abuse, or outright violence, reveals a fundamental lack of empathy and compassion, traits that are essential to being a good and moral person. When someone shows cruelty to animals, it's not just a momentary lapse in judgment or a sign of a bad day. It's a window into a deeper, more disturbing aspect of their personality. Think about it. Animals are often at the mercy of humans. They look to us for care, for food, for shelter, and for love. How someone responds to this trust speaks volumes about their true nature. If they respond with kindness and care, it's a sign of a compassionate heart. But if they respond with cruelty or neglect, it suggests a much darker side. Consider the story of Mike, a middle-aged man who always seemed charming and personable in social situations. Mike was known for his quick wit and easygoing nature. However, his neighbor, Susan, began noticing something unsettling. Whenever Mike was around stray cats in the neighborhood, his demeanor changed. He would kick at them, shout, and even throw things to scare them away. One day, Susan saw him throw a rock at a dog that had wandered into his yard. She realized then that Mike's charm was only a facade. His mistreatment of animals revealed a cruelty that he carefully hid in his interactions with people. What does this behavior tell us about Mike? It shows that behind his pleasant exterior, there's a person who lacks empathy, who enjoys exerting power over those who are weaker. It raises an important question. If someone can be so cruel to a defenseless animal, how might they treat a person who is vulnerable or powerless? This kind of behavior is not just a red flag, it's a glaring alarm that something is very wrong. The philosopher Immanuel Kant once said, "We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals." This statement holds a profound truth. Those who mistreat animals often exhibit other troubling behaviors, such as manipulation, deceit, or even violence towards people. It's as if their mistreatment of animals is a rehearsal for how they might behave in more significant human interactions. It's crucial to recognize that the way someone treats animals can be a predictor of how they might treat people who are in similarly vulnerable positions, like children, the elderly, or anyone they perceive as weaker. You might ask yourself, have you ever witnessed someone mistreating an animal? How did it make you feel? Did it change the way you viewed them? There's also a deeper, more philosophical aspect to consider. The Stoics believed in living in harmony with nature and practicing virtues such as kindness, justice, and wisdom. Treating animals with cruelty goes against these principles. It shows a disregard for life and an unwillingness to cultivate empathy. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If one's actions towards the most innocent of creatures are filled with cruelty, what does that say about the color of their soul? It's a reflection of their inner world, one that is likely filled with darkness and malice. In modern life, this behavior is more than just an outdated view or a lack of understanding. It is a conscious choice to disregard the feelings and well-being of another living being. This choice speaks volumes about one's character. Let's think about this in a more everyday context. Perhaps you know someone who seems to treat their pet poorly, shouting at them unnecessarily, neglecting to care for them properly, or even hitting them. You might have shrugged it off thinking, they're just having a bad day. But what if this behavior is consistent? What if it's a pattern? This is where you need to be vigilant. The way a person treats an animal, who relies on them for everything, can reveal how they might behave when they feel they have power over others. It's a form of testing boundaries, seeing how far they can go without facing consequences. This is why many psychologists believe that cruelty to animals is an early warning sign of deeper, more serious issues. It's often linked to antisocial behavior, a lack of empathy, and even a propensity for violence. It's not just about the act of cruelty itself, but what it represents, a lack of moral compass and a distorted sense of right and wrong. Now you might wonder, how should you respond if you see someone mistreating an animal? The first step is awareness. Don't turn a blind eye to it. Recognize that this behavior is not normal or acceptable. It's crucial to speak up, either by addressing the behavior directly or reporting it to the appropriate authorities. Protecting those who are vulnerable, whether they are animals or people, is a responsibility we all share. You could ask the person why they are behaving this way and express your discomfort with their actions. If you feel safe doing so, challenge them to think about their behavior and how it reflects on their character. Remember, standing up against cruelty is not just about protecting the victim, it's also about sending a clear message that such behavior is unacceptable in a civilized society. It's about fostering a culture of kindness, compassion, and respect for all living beings. Mistreating animals is not a minor character flaw. It's a significant red flag that should not be ignored. It reveals a lack of empathy, compassion, and moral integrity. The Stoic philosophers teach us to live virtuous lives, filled with kindness and respect for all beings. If you encounter someone who mistreats animals, take it seriously. It's a sign that there may be deeper issues at play, and it's an opportunity to protect yourself and others from potential harm. Ask yourself, are there people in your life who show a lack of empathy or kindness? How do they treat those who are weaker or more vulnerable? Reflect on these questions and let them guide you in making choices about who you allow into your inner circle. Remember, as Epictetus taught, no man is free who is not master of himself. A person who cannot control their cruel impulses, even towards animals, is not someone who is truly free in the Stoic sense. They are bound by their own darkness, and it's up to you to decide whether to keep them close or protect yourself by walking away. Number 11. Lack of remorse. One of the clearest signs that someone might have a darker side is their lack of remorse. This isn't just about someone who makes mistakes. We all do that. It's about a person who consistently fails to show any regret or guilt for their actions, no matter how much harm they've caused. When someone lacks remorse, it means they don't feel bad about the pain they inflict on others. They don't take responsibility for their actions, and they certainly don't seek to make amends. Think about it. Remorse is a natural human emotion that signals a person's understanding of right and wrong. It shows empathy, the ability to feel for others and acknowledge when you've hurt them. When someone lacks this essential trait, it's a red flag that they might be capable of much worse. The philosopher Seneca once said, "All cruelty springs from weakness." A lack of remorse often springs from a deep-seated weakness, a fear of being perceived as wrong, an inability to face one's flaws, or even a complete disregard for others' feelings. How many times have you encountered someone who never says, "I'm sorry," even when they're clearly in the wrong? How does that make you feel about their character and your relationship with them? Consider the story of Tom, a successful businessman in his 50s, who prided himself on his ability to get the job done. Tom was known for his ruthless approach, cutting corners, stepping over colleagues, and doing whatever it took to climb the corporate ladder. One day, Tom made a decision that led to the firing of several employees. These were hard-working individuals who had families to support, yet Tom showed no remorse. When confronted by a colleague about the impact of his actions, he simply shrugged and said, "They were just collateral damage." This statement revealed a chilling lack of empathy and remorse. Tom's behavior wasn't just about ambition, it was about a fundamental disregard for the well-being of others. What does this tell us about Tom's character? It tells us that he is someone who sees people as tools, not as human beings with feelings and lives of their own. This kind of behavior can be incredibly destructive, not just to those directly affected, but to the entire environment around them. It creates a culture of fear, mistrust, and insecurity. A lack of remorse is dangerous because it shows a person who doesn't care about the consequences of their actions. They are not held back by guilt or regret, which can make them capable of more harm in the future. It's as if they have no moral compass guiding their behavior, and this makes them unpredictable and potentially very harmful. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A person who lacks remorse has a soul that has been dyed by selfishness, indifference, and perhaps even malice. This is not someone who seeks to live in harmony with others or the world around them. Instead, they act purely out of self-interest, with little regard for the impact of their actions on others. Have you ever dealt with someone who never seems to apologize, no matter how much they hurt you or others? It can be deeply unsettling and even hurtful. Over time, this kind of behavior can make you start to question your own worth, wondering if you deserved the treatment you received. But remember, it's not about you. It's about them. A lack of remorse is a reflection of their own inability to feel or express genuine empathy. It's a sign that they may not be capable of forming deep, meaningful relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Think about the people in your life. Are there individuals who have hurt you and never shown any sign of remorse or willingness to make things right? How has this affected your relationship with them? Have you found yourself forgiving them repeatedly, only for them to continue their hurtful behavior? In a modern context, consider a scenario where a manager consistently takes credit for the work of their team without acknowledging their efforts. This manager never feels guilty about leaving his team out of the limelight, even though their hard work is what drives the company's success. Instead, he sees his team's contributions as just another stepping stone for his personal gain. When confronted by an employee who feels wronged, he dismisses their concerns, saying, "That's just how the business world works. If you want credit, you've got to earn it yourself." This lack of remorse for the emotional and professional harm he's causing speaks volumes about his character. It shows that he values his advancement over fairness and integrity, revealing a deeper, more troubling disregard for others. What kind of culture do you think this fosters within the workplace? How do you think this affects the morale and motivation of the team? When you encounter a lack of remorse, it's crucial to set boundaries and protect yourself. Understand that you cannot change someone who doesn't see a problem with their actions. Instead, focus on how you react and how you can protect your own well-being. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control others' actions, we can control our responses. As Epictetus wisely noted, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If someone continually shows a lack of remorse, it may be time to distance yourself from them, to protect your peace of mind and your emotional health. Life is too short to spend it with people who refuse to acknowledge their wrongs or seek to make amends. A lack of remorse is a glaring sign of a potentially harmful individual. It reveals a person who lacks empathy, fails to understand the impact of their actions, and is not guided by a sense of morality or justice. These are the kind of people who can cause real damage, whether it's in personal relationships, in the workplace, or in any community setting. It's vital to recognize this behavior for what it is and to take steps to protect yourself. Reflect on the relationships in your life and ask yourself, are there people who have consistently shown a lack of remorse? How has this affected your trust in them? And most importantly, what are you willing to do to protect yourself from their potential harm? Remember, as Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Be brave enough to stand up for yourself, to walk away from those who do not value you, and to seek out relationships where empathy, respect, and remorse are present. Only then can you truly live a life of virtue and peace, free from the harm of those who lack a moral compass. Thank you for being with us in this video and taking the time to explore these obvious signs that there might be an evil person next to you. Which of these signs have you encountered in your own life, and how did you handle it? We'd love to hear your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. And if you're not sure what to write, simply comment, "I'm learning to recognize the signs," to show that you're on this journey of wisdom and growth with us. Number 12. Envy. Envy is a silent poison that can reveal an evil presence right next to you, and it's a behavior that's more dangerous than most people realize. When we talk about envy, we're not just discussing a fleeting feeling of jealousy that we all experience from time to time. Instead, we're referring to a deeper, more insidious kind of envy, one that consumes a person, eats away at their soul, and turns their thoughts and actions towards darkness. This form of envy is not simply wanting what someone else has, it's resenting them for having it. It's the kind of envy that drives people to undermine others, sabotage their successes, or spread rumors and lies to bring them down. This envy doesn't just stay hidden in the heart. It manifests in actions and words that are meant to harm. It's important to remember what the Stoic philosopher Seneca said. Envy is the enemy of the fortunate. Envy can take someone's good fortune and twist it into a source of bitterness and spite. If you have ever felt the sting of envy from someone, you know it can be incredibly hurtful and confusing. How can a person who seems close to you, a friend, a family member, or a colleague, harbor such feelings of resentment? How do you handle a relationship where someone secretly envies your successes or happiness? Think about it. Have you ever noticed someone acting strangely when you've achieved something significant? Maybe a promotion, a new relationship, or even a simple personal accomplishment that brings you joy. Instead of celebrating with you, they seem distant, less enthusiastic, or even dismissive. They might make subtle, cutting remarks disguised as jokes or offer backhanded compliments that leave you feeling uneasy. You may find them trying to downplay your achievements, shifting the conversation away from your successes, or making you feel like you don't deserve what you've worked hard to achieve. This behavior is not just annoying, it's toxic. It's a sign that the person is not genuinely happy for you, but rather feels threatened or diminished by your success. How do you respond to that? Do you ignore it, hoping it will pass, or do you address it directly, risking further conflict? These are difficult decisions, but recognizing envy for what it is can help guide your actions. Consider the story of Rebecca, a successful entrepreneur who worked hard to build her own business from the ground up. She had a close friend, Laura, who initially seemed supportive of her endeavors. However, as Rebecca's business began to flourish, she noticed a change in Laura's behavior. Laura would often make sarcastic comments about Rebecca's success, implying that she was lucky or that she must have had help that others didn't have. She'd go out of her way to share negative news about the industry, almost as if she wanted Rebecca to fail. Rebecca eventually realized that Laura's envy was not just a harmless emotion, but was starting to affect her own confidence and peace of mind. She had to make a tough choice: continue to tolerate Laura's behavior and allow it to drag her down, or distance herself to protect her own well-being. This is a choice many of us might face when dealing with envious people. How much should we tolerate before it starts to affect our happiness and mental health? The problem with envy is that it often leads to other destructive behaviors. Envy is rarely an isolated feeling. It can lead to actions like gossiping, lying, or even sabotaging others to feel better about oneself. A person consumed by envy might spread false rumors about you to tarnish your reputation or try to undermine your efforts at every turn. Why do they do this? Because envy makes them feel inadequate or lesser than you, and rather than working on themselves or finding ways to improve, they'd rather bring you down to their level. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wisely noted, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This quote reminds us that we must not allow ourselves to be dragged down to the level of those who envy us. Instead, we should rise above and continue to pursue our path with integrity and virtue. But how can you deal with someone who is envious of you? First, recognize the signs. If someone constantly tries to downplay your achievements, makes hurtful comments disguised as jokes, or seems happier when you're struggling rather than when you're succeeding, they might be envious of you. Once you recognize this behavior, it's essential to protect yourself. You can try addressing the issue directly, expressing how their behavior makes you feel, and giving them a chance to change. However, be prepared for resistance. Envy is a deeply rooted emotion, often tied to insecurity and low self-esteem. The envious person may not even realize they are acting out of envy, or might be unwilling to admit it. In such cases, it might be necessary to distance yourself from them. Remember, your peace of mind and happiness should come first. Why surround yourself with people who are not genuinely happy for you and who bring negativity into your life? In modern life, envy is often fueled by social comparisons. We live in a world where we constantly see other people's highlight reels on social media. Perfect vacations, career achievements, happy families. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others and feeling envious when you perceive yourself as lacking. But it's crucial to remember that social media often presents a curated version of reality, not the whole picture. The Stoics remind us to focus on our own path and not be distracted by others. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means that instead of letting envy take root in our hearts, we should cultivate gratitude for what we have and focus on our own growth and journey. The same applies when dealing with others who envy us. Understand that their envy is more about their own insecurities than anything you have done. Ask yourself, are there people in your life who seem to resent your successes? How do their actions impact you, and what steps can you take to protect yourself from their negativity? It might be worth having a candid conversation with them or, if that's not possible, gradually distancing yourself to preserve your peace. The key is not to let their envy affect your self-esteem or derail your progress. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your successes, support your growth, and genuinely want to see you thrive. And remember, as Seneca advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. It's better to have a few genuine friends who uplift you than many who secretly hope for your downfall. Reflect on this as you navigate your relationships and strive to build connections based on mutual respect, trust, and encouragement. In doing so, you not only protect yourself from envy, but also cultivate a life filled with positive, uplifting relationships that help you grow into the best version of yourself. As we conclude this journey through understanding the signs of negative influences in our lives, remember that recognizing these traits is just the first step. The real challenge is applying this wisdom daily to protect your peace and cultivate personal growth and happiness. At Stoic in Your Life, we believe that awareness, guided by Stoic principles, is the key to living a life of virtue and resilience. I encourage you to reflect on these signs and think about how they show up in your own life. How can you use this knowledge to strengthen your relationships and surround yourself with positive, uplifting people? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to write, "I am worth a lot," if you made it to the end. Your journey to wisdom and personal strength is a testament to your commitment to living a better life. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss new content. Share this video with friends or family who might benefit from this insight, and consider becoming a member to support the channel. Details are in the pinned comment. To continue your learning, check out these 2 recommended videos on Stoicism and psychology. Until next time, remember to stay strong, stay aware, and keep living a life guided by wisdom. A big hug, and see you in the next video.